Hey guys, welcome back. Tisha here, back to discuss another segment of It's Getting Real. Go ahead and do me a favor and hit the like button as I ask you this question. Are those who suffer from mental disorders responsible for the crimes in which they commit? Because that is one of the subjects that came up with this story. This story first caught my attention because of the survivor. A clip went viral of Ronnie O'Neal in court with his wigs in his suit representing himself. And there were a lot of different things that were said about this clip. It became to the point when I was looking at some of the comments, I found myself being extremely upset because are we really paying attention to the severity of this situation? People were so focused in on the fact that this man was yelling and ranting for his opening statement for the jury that they missed that this is the same man who later would be questioning the survivor of his crime because he's representing himself, his son. Kenyatta Barron, known to family as Kiki, was born on November 13th, 1984 in Hillsborough County, Florida, to Booker Ray and C. Barron. Kenyatta was born into a big family with, I believe I counted according to her obituary, 6 siblings. She was described as loving, thoughtful, genuine, beautiful, smart, and caring. She loved poetry and writing and life. She'd often be found cooking or spending time in her devotion and reading and focusing on God. She attended multiple schools in Hillsborough County. And after completing high school, she started going to Hillsborough College. At some point during all of this, she meets a man by the name of Rodney O'Neal III. I don't know much when it comes to this relationship or how they met because it's not really a lot out there about it. I don't know if there's a definite answer. I wonder if there's, the community college aspect because they do have that in common as far as have attending there, but I don't know the whole story. It's believed that they met around 2007 and they gave birth to their first child in 2009, a girl by the name of Ranavea. Having Ranavea was a little challenging because she was born prematurely. And at the time, she was diagnosed with cerebral palsy and she was found to later be autistic because she was nonverbal. Despite that, she was a joy, and Kenyatta made sure that she was there every step of the way for her child. After a short time, she gets pregnant again, this time giving birth to a son. He was named Ronnie the Fourth after his father, but I will be calling him Ron Jr. or Jr. As I said before, there isn't much about them as a couple, but I'd assume that they had some problems because finances were an issue and religion was an issue. Him wanting to be a rapper, him not maintaining a job, there were issues. Maybe they were off and on because at some point he did have a child with another woman. I believe it was back in 2016, but Kiki, that's also what they called her, stayed with him. So there were previous times where the police were called to their home for domestic disturbances, but they were all minor. Despite everything that they were going through, despite the issues, despite the finances, despite him having a baby on her, she remains with him. And in 2017, he is shot and she is seen by his side in the hospital. There are pictures of her with him while he is recovering. So they recover from that. But by the time 2018 rolls around, there are significant changes in Ronnie. He is now struggling with his mental health, spouting about conspiracies and different theories and ranting a lot incoherently at times and saying that he was under attack, claiming to have fought actual demons that he saw. He didn't just tell her this, he told multiple people this. And me personally, if I heard something like that, I personally would be watching him. Yeah, there are times where people are saying that they're under attack, but the extent to which he was saying it and the way that he was changing his behavior would have been a concern for me. I feel like we as a people, when we hear things like this, that we have to take these claims seriously and be vigilant, because unfortunately it can turn into something like what happened. Which brings us to March 18th, 2018. According to reports, on the evening of March 18th, 2018, Ronnie and Kenyatta get into a big argument, right? According to her son, the disagreement was believed to be about Ronnie being a Muslim and Kenyatta's unwillingness to convert, because she, in all terms, she was spiritual. She would be labeled as a Christian, and she did not want to convert. But because he was now Islamic, he wanted her to convert along with the family to his Islamic faith. So during this argument, something happens, and at 11:43 p.m., the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office receives a 911 call from a woman that is later identified as Kenyatta. She is heard crying and struggling to breathe and screaming at times in the background, saying that she was shot. Dispatch is trying to get the address, but she's frantic. She's hysterical. She is trying to get away from this man. Ronnie is heard during the call, not just yelling at her, but yelling at one of the kids to get in there and kill this itch. The son later testifies to this, right? On the recording, she is heard apologizing to Ronnie and begging for her life. She says, "Ronnie, I trust you. I trust you. I'll do everything that you say to do." And he is heard yelling back at her, saying, "Say it again, say it again, say it again." And then she screams and the call disconnects. Several minutes later, another call is made from a man who I believe was later identified as him, providing the address and claiming that he was attacked by white demons, right? Saying that those white demons tried to kill him, so instead he killed her. Now, what he also fails to tell dispatch is that he also beat and killed his daughter, Ranavea, with an axe, and that he stabbed his son while also trying to light him and their home on fire. Junior tries to run to the neighbor's home, struggling from the wounds and the burns that his father has inflicted upon him. His father did this. The amount of fear, the heartbreak, and the terror that that young man faced is just so heart-wrenching to me. Y'all, I'm gonna try to keep it together, but when I say, even when I was writing these notes, yeah, I was crying. Deputies arrive at the home at around 11:50, not knowing the full extent of the situation. They're there because of the first call that was made that got disconnected. So imagine their surprise when they arrive and they see Kenyatta lying unconscious on the neighboring front yard of the home. Police see Ron. They order him to get on the ground and he refuses to do so. And because of him not complying, they end up tasing him to get him to do what he's supposed to do. They are finally able to put the cuffs on him, put him in the car, and take him into custody. While being in the car, he's continuing to refer to Kenyatta as the devil, adding that the kids are devil's kids. Because of the fire, firefighters enter the home to put out the fire, not knowing what they were going to face. So once the fire is put out, they found Ranavea, and she is pronounced dead on the scene. Before being rushed to the hospital, Ron Jr. tells detectives, "My father shot my mother." That poor baby. Junior was burned and stabbed multiple times, and he was in critical condition. So Ronnie is arrested and charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of attempted murder. In custody, he's rambling and he's incoherent. In court, he is disruptive and talking and mumbling during proceedings. So the judge orders that he be evaluated to see if he will even be fit to stand trial. He's evaluated by multiple doctors, and it is determined that Ronnie is unfit to stand trial. So he is sent to a psychiatric hospital where he remains until he is ready. It took several years for this case to go to trial because Ronnie's behavior was still very erratic. Meanwhile, the years are going by. Even though Junior's injuries were extremely severe, he was a little fighter and he survives. 4 days after the attack, he was able to tell detectives what his father had done, remembering every awful detail. He recovers physically, but there are still some major struggles as imagined. After all, not only had his father tried to kill him, but his father had succeeded in killing his mother and his sister. The very person that was supposed to protect him did the most harm to him. At that time, he was just 8. Now, some reports say 7, some say 8. I'm going to go with 8. So after many years and delays, the trial is set for June 14th, 2021. Ronnie wants to claim innocence based on the stand your ground law in Florida. His team lets him know there's no way that you can do that. It's not going to happen. It doesn't apply to this case. So he decides that he's going to represent himself with little assistance from the attorneys because they're not doing what he wants them to do. And if he can't claim that, he's going to make sure that he gets off, right? I personally don't understand how he was able to do this. I don't understand how the law works when it comes to things like this. Like if someone was originally mentally unstable, how do we now say this person is capable of, defending themselves properly? I just don't get it. I understand that sentencing guidelines and things of that nature are different, varying states, but I feel like there needs to be some changes around certain laws because it's just not making sense to me. It also doesn't make sense to me that the person who has these problems is not only able to represent themselves, but also able to cross-examine the witness that they tried to kill. I often feel like there's not enough protection for the victims, not just in cases like these, but even when it comes to SA and things like that. Like the fact that those people have to sit up there, and I understand that you're supposed to be able to face your accuser. At what point do we realize the harm that it does to varying individuals? So in his opening statements, he is yelling and lying, saying that he killed Kenyatta because she killed their daughter and then she tried to kill him. So Junior, who is now 11, takes the stand. I'm calling it a stand, but really he was in a remote location on video. So they did at least try to protect him in that regard by not having him in front of the same room as the scum that hurt him, right? So in this room, he has an emotional support dog with him because these are one of the things that he sometimes requires and is helping him with his therapy. In his testimony, he talks about how he saw his father holding a shotgun, how he heard his mother screaming at his father, how his mom ran into his sister's room and into the closet, and his dad said, "Come in here and kill this bee." His mom at one point stumbled out of the closet, and then his dad chased his mother further, and he heard one shot. He watched his father as his father hit his sister in the head with an axe. We'll get more into that in the testimony. He watched his father go into the garage pushed him on the floor, had him on the floor with his foot on top of him as he lit a match to light him and the house on fire. The young man spoke about how there was blood everywhere, how his father was chasing him around the house into the kitchen, and how his father stabbed him repeatedly. Imagine giving that testimony while the very person that did this to you is not only right there on video in front of you, but that he's eventually going to be able to question you. So at this point, Ron O'Neal is representing himself. And he starts off by saying, "How you doing, man?" His son says, "Good." He says, "Good to see you, man." His son says, "Good to see you too." I do not know why. But watching that clip, it tore me up. Because as much as this man has done to him, at the end of the day, that man is his father. And his son still cares about him. He's sitting there real nonchalantly saying to his son, "How you doing, man?" Like, you didn't just try to kill this boy a few years ago. Like, you didn't stab him and light him on fire and take away his mom and his sister and forever change his life. It's chilling. But this man doesn't feel. He doesn't feel. So he begins to cross-examine his son. He says, "Did I hurt you that night?" And Ronnie says, "Yes." He says, "How did I hurt you?" He says, "You stabbed me." The clips online of this young man's testimony are not short. I'm going to leave one of them up here, but there's several of them. That young man, showed so much strength during his testimony to sit up there all that time, to be questioned and have to relive this moment that has forever changed you, that you still have emotional and physical scars from. That's a lot. At the conclusion of the trial, Ronnie is convicted on all counts. He is facing the death penalty, and it is up to the jury to decide whether or not he will get life or if he will be executed. This is where that question of mine comes into play, because I honestly think, had there not been mental issues here, that the verdict might have been different. So his attorneys are given the permission to speak again, and do what attorneys do now that he has been found guilty, right? And they do what often happens, which they make excuses for the defendant's behavior, saying that he went through things as a child, and that as a result of that this happened, that he was SA'd and things of that nature. And it's just like, come on, that is not enough. I don't feel like it's right for behaviors to be excused because of someone being SA'd. If that was the case, do you know how many of us would be criminals? Do you know? You're looking. So because of things that went on in my life, I'm supposed to then go out and turn into a monster? No excuse for it. I refuse to feel that way. I don't like it. I don't think that it's right. And I'm tired of that being a thing, right? It's already bad enough, in my opinion, that there's not enough information out there about this young lady, about this young girl, that I couldn't even make this longer. That I had to dig for the little bit that I've been able to give you, because you guys know that I normally like to make this a thing where I talk to you all more about the people who are no longer here, the people who the crimes have been committed against, than the person who committed the crime, because he was all over the place. His name was all over the place. Videos of him and his wicks were all over the place, but we're not plastering enough, in my opinion, about this girl and her daughter that are no longer here, and this young man who is forever changed. I don't like it. So he is sentenced to 3 consecutive life terms plus 60 years for the attempted murder of his son. On the stand, Kiki's sister stated, "When you sit in that cell for the rest of your life, Remember, you don't leave out until you're in a box. So when you sit in a cell every day, 24 hours of the day, that scream is what I want you to hear. The scream where Kiki was screaming for her life. When she comes to you in your dreams, I want you to receive it. The judge also shared her thoughts, saying, "This was the worst case I'd ever witnessed and will live with the facts and evidence I've seen for the rest of my life." She recalled a moment in the trial when a firefighter testified about finding Ranevea's body and laying her out on front of the lawn, realizing that she was no longer alive. The judge said, the gentleman said, when he retrieved the body of her from the home, that all he could do was sob. The judge then added, "It took every ounce in me to not start sobbing too." This is Judge Michelle that said this, because there is no way any person with any feeling could have witnessed or seen the photos of what occurred that night and not be haunted for the rest of your life. I know I will be. For the rest of my life, I will be hunted by what I saw as far as the evidence and the object cruelty of it all. She got especially emotional as she spoke about the young lady and what he did to her. "The first time you struck her with that hatchet," and little Roddy Jr. testified that all he could see was tears coming out of his sister's face. At that moment, that child knew that she was being betrayed in the cruelest and most tragic and sorrowful way that a child could be betrayed. She was being betrayed by her parent, the one person that should be there to protect their children and love them and keep them from harm. Remember, this little girl had cerebral palsy and she was autistic. She can't even vocalize anything as her father attacks her. And the last memory that her brother has of her is of tears that were streaming down her face as the attack ensued. I hate that. I hate it. So he's locked up forever, as he should be. While he was still hospitalized following the attack, Junior was visited by a Hillsborough County Sheriff Officer, Deputy Mike Blair. While visiting Junior, Junior held on to the detective's arm and asked him if he could stay and watch a movie with him. The detective Blair told him that he couldn't because he had to go back to work, but he made a deal with him, which is that he would come back later and watch a movie after he got off. Later that night, Mike and his wife, Danielle, came back to watch the movie with him, and they were instantly connected. Danielle said that she knew that first night that she was going to end up taking him home. And 5 months later, the Blairs began the official adoption process, and they adopted Ron Jr. in 2019. According to Junior, they are the best. They are really nice people. They really take care of him. He feels like there's no one else better than them. I'm not sure why none of his family took him. I knew that he has to go to a lot of appointments and therapy and things of that nature. I don't know exactly what this young man has been through and what the circumstances are with the family. But what has been made clear to me is he's where he needs to be right now with this family. This is what's best for him. Ronnie is continuing therapy. Not only has he gained a new mother, but he's gained a new father as well. And he's also gained 5 other siblings. He loves science and he wants to be an actor. According to his adoptive father, he says he knows he has a story that's been written for him, but he doesn't want his son to be defined by that story. You guys, I'm not sure how I feel about this story. I feel like so many other stories, this could have been avoided. I feel like it's a shame that Kiki and her daughter are no longer here. I feel like it's a shame that Junior is forever changed and will forever have memories of his father removing his mother and his sister from his life. And it just all seems so unfair. You guys, let me know what you thought about this story. If there's something that I left out that you want to talk about, feel free to put it down below. Thank you guys so much. Continue to rest in peace. Kiki and Nevaeh.